Welcome to the 600th episode of This Justin Comics, previously known as Multimedia Man, previously known as Simpsons Comics fan, Simpsons fan 89 forever. The whole joke behind 89 forever was forever, for and ever, like forever, that pun. And then The Simpsons have been running since 1989, so it's a little in joke there. Previously known as my full legal name, because when I set up my account way back 10 years ago, they had asked me, they were like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I put my name, and I think must have misread your name as YouTube name, or they just put your name as a YouTube name back then, or whatever. You had to know if you were knowledgeable enough to put, what you want to put as your username. But without further ado, so for this episode, I'm gonna also start a new series. Now, this is not the aforementioned series I mentioned when I reached 200 subscribers. That's a completely different series that at worst case, I reach 200 subscribers by the end of this year, because either way, the new series I was talking about then, when I reach 200 subscribers, will be starting in January of 2024. But this is the first series of top 10 comics from each publisher. Now, for the first one, for Image Comics, it's pretty easy, in my personal collection also. For Image Comics, it's pretty easy because there's a lot that we have read and a lot haven't finished, that kind of thing. But for Marvel, there's a lot that I've read. DC, there's a lot that I've read. Dark Horse will be a bit difficult. I might have to prepare for that ahead of time. And I probably will just do the ones that I have the most of. Like something like Aftershock Comics I can't do, because I don't even have 10 of those. But Dark Horse Dark Horse is the only one they have enough of that would be difficult to do. And it was being all my books in Dark Horse. But I'll count that for Dark Horse. I'll count that I have 10, not including, because I don't include volume 2 of a series as two books. I count it as one series, as one book. Because if I counted each book as, as an entry, it would be all the same series, basically. It would have to be. Technically. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, before I get into it, technically there are series that I don't have all the issues or all the volumes of the series. Because I have at least one volume, I'm still counting it as comics that are in my personal collection. So I'm going to do the first two will be those series that I don't have all the issues of. So let's get those out of the way. First one up is one that I think everyone has heard of. It's probably the most popular series from Image Comics, at least modern Image Comics, and that is The Walking Dead. A series so good that I'm probably gonna end up rereading it the next time I go to the library, because they have the full series. Which is the only reason why I do not have this full series in my PC. PC meaning personal collection. But to say personal collection every time, that's, say PC for short. That's the only reason I don't have this comic series in my PC, is because they have the full series. The compendiums, hardcovers, single volumes like this, they have them all at a local library. So it's, I'm talking, so local libraries where they have the first, 14, actually it's first 13. And then the Intro Loans has the rest of the series. For those of you new to my channel, when I say local library, I usually mean Intro Loans, but I just say local libraries. That's where I pick up the books. But I mean local library. That means books that they have right there, and not from other libraries, just right at that local library. I really should get used to saying Interloan Library, and definitely actually differentiating the two, but that's the way I am. So this series is probably my favorite out of all of them. If I had, these are in no particular order either. But this one is probably my favorite. It was one of those series I was just hooked. Now it does get kind of slow. It kind of loses its magic toward the end. And I'm glad it ended where it did. And it has the perfect ending too, by the way. Well, almost perfect, because one character, there's like with Game of Thrones, and slight spoilers, there are characters that get killed off, and some of them may be your favorites. And one of them that gets killed off towards the end of the series was my favorite character, or second, maybe not my favorite. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, but other than that, it has a perfect ending. And this, the first 100, and let's say, because you get Negan at issue 100, I would say actually the first 14 volumes are like hardcovers at least, so I think 28 volumes. The first, whatever's collected in the first 14 hardcovers, oversized hardcovers, are probably my favorite issues of the series. Like, that's like unbeatable. Especially when you get into issue 100, that's when it gets like, you know, the first 100 issues in general were really good. You know, don't get me wrong. But after that 100th issue, it stops. It never stops. It just keeps going. Never stops. It's like a thrill ride that never ends. And I would say before then too, when you get to the governor, that gets really interesting. But Robert Kirkman knows how to keep your interest. And when he feels like he's losing it, he ramps up production and gets even gets even crazier. And there, even when it gets slower, there's still like they still try and introduce new things that don't. It's not too convoluted. The series, this series never got convoluted for me, at least in my personal opinion. At least in my opinion, that's redundant. At least in my opinion, it never got too convoluted. So once Robert Kirkman realizes through using your interest, he introduces something new, or ramps up production, shit hits the fan, and it's even better. I lost my train of thought. But it's like, and again, even when it got slower towards the end of the series, they would still Robert Kirkman would still introduce new things, and it would keep your interest for a few issues, and get back to being slower. But that's just because the series is almost 200 issues long. I don't think anybody, not even Kirkman, can make 200 issues, and it's like 192. I was gonna say round up to 200. Not even Kirkman can make 200 consecutive issues, 200 issues of a series consecutive, like from start to finish, like just as good as the last issue. It's not consecutively. What would that word be? I don't remember. I don't know. I can't word sometimes, but anyways, this series is definitely my favorite. More than likely my favorite. And I cannot wait to read the series again. And Robert Kirkman is one of those guys. Like, the only reason why I'm reluctant to get back into Walking Dead is because there's so much I want from Robert Kirkman, just from Image Comics alone. And I have this really stupid rule where I can't read anything by him, even as a compendium from him, the Outcast compendium, which will be on my list. I haven't finished that series yet. I didn't want to do two from the same author, 2 series from the same author at least. And it's a really weird rule I have. I have most of everything that I want from him. There's just one more series, and that series is ending December, so that next volume will come out probably February. So next year, I don't have to worry about it till next year. It's just a really weird rule I have. But anyways, moving on. But I am going to pick it up next time, regardless. I'm gonna break that rule just because of how much I want to read Walking Dead again. It's been a while. So next series that I've really enjoyed. Now this one you have seen before a lot of times. I read this like probably 5 times. Probably the most amount of times I've read an Image Comics series, like reread, and that is The Wicked and the Divine. An absolutely incredible series, and one that I think anybody can enjoy. Walking Dead, yes, that too, but Walking Dead is a bit violent, it's horror. This is fantasy, and it doesn't get too, it's violent, yes, but it's definitely immature, like Walking Dead is. But Walking Dead is a lot more violent, and, darker than this is. This is a lot more. It is dark, but it has a lot more comedy in it, a lot more lighthearted junk in it than Walking Dead does. And this is written by Kieran Gillen, who I am a Kieran Gillen sympathizer because of series like this in his Young Avengers, which I don't know, and his Journey into Mystery. His Young Avengers, I read it for a second time, didn't like as much as I did the first time. I think I need to read it a third time, but almost everything I've read by him, except for his Eternals, I liked. And that's why I'm a sympathizer for him. Yeah, he probably, his Eternals is probably the best he can do nowadays, but I mean, I don't look at that as what he's written nowadays is how he is as a writer in general. No, it's in general, from the years before to now, you know, I count it as in general, not as, oh, this, he's bad now, so he's now a bad writer. No, it's, if he wrote something like this, he's a good writer in my opinion. This has to do with like gods and everything. Now, I think Walking Dead, to explain what Walking Dead is about, I'm pretty sure most of you guys already know what that's about. And Walking Dead is like these gods, they return as young people. It's kind of like an allegory for celebrities. They're kind of like celebrities in this world. It's kind of like hard to explain what the series is about because so much happens in it, and it's kind of hard to explain about it. But that's your basic premise. You know, I'll read the back of what it says. Every 90 years, 12 gods return as young people. They are loved, they are hated. In 2 years, they are all dead. It's happening now, it's happening again. So it's that kind of storyline. It is pretty convoluted, like not too convoluted. If you like comics, you won't be too confused, or it won't be too different than what it'll be different enough, but like you won't be too alienated. Is my point. Like if you're into comics, especially Image Comics, this will not alienate you at all. But if you're just getting into comics, this is probably the best one to start with. I would say Walking Dead start with that. But this is probably my second favorite Image Comics series. So I had to go in order. And I do not have all 9 volumes of the series. My local library, Ancient Loans Library, has all 9 volumes. But I may just get all 9 volumes. I may purchase it myself and keep all 9 volumes in my personal collection. But that won't be until at least Christmas. It's on my wish list right now, but because I have more than just that on my Christmas wish list, some of those books are going out of stock, and I have to, and because there's third-party sellers, I'm like, okay, this third-party seller, and it kind of keeps increasing. So if I had to change my, I mean, what's nice is that the ones that are going away are all from the same author, and no, it's not Wicked and Divine. It's the series by, it's books by another author, and those were the first to go. If I had those, not the the ones by the given author, those were the first to go. Even though I like the author, and I don't have anything from him from Image Comics, but I like to do with third parties instead of getting like 400 or 20 books from Amazon themselves. I like to get 40 from third party sellers if I can help it. Especially with books like, Wicked and Divine, where a lot of them are from third-party sellers used like new. Sometimes they make a sacrifice to use very good, but sometimes those used very good to come in better condition than Amazon's new condition does. And I don't know how that. I don't know how that can be. Well, and I shouldn't be. I meant to say. This next series I did like okay, but I still liked it. I still remember enjoying the series. It wasn't like a complete like boring, And this actually, I actually am doing to the same author, but this was the exception. And actually, one series is co-authored by him, so it's not the same. Technically, it's not the same. This is On the Stump by Chuck Brown. This had to do with like presidents, like boxing. It was like the what was it again? That's what it was. So it's the elections. I know the word. Elections are decided by brutal, highly publicized, hand-to-hand combat in arenas called stumps. So it's pretty political. Like so there's politics in this comic, but if I don't remember it being too on the nose or too unsubtle, then it probably wasn't too on the nose and or subtle. But if you like Chuck Brown, you'll probably dig this book. It's only 5 issues, by the way. And it's all in one too, so you can't go wrong with this book. Not too much to say about this one. It'd probably, if I had to make a top 10, it'd probably be an honorable mention. If I just did top 10 in general, that is. Next up, we have The Few. Probably the most underrated writer and most underrated series from Image Comics. If you like post-apocalyptic comics, if you like, action and adventure, I guess, comics, you'll really dig this. And the artwork is like, it's different, but it complements the story. And I like comics that take place in like winter. I don't know why. Maybe because it reminds me of Christmas. And one of my favorite comics of all time is Klaus by Grant Morrison, which is a Christmas comic. It's by Boom Studios. Boom Studios is another one. So maybe what I'll start doing is I'll start doing like I'll do 1 or 2 of them to fill in the gap that are from my local library, you know, and I'll say, oh, the next one up is Klaus. Only thing is, I won't be showing the book. But the few is, and this is 5 issues, and 5 issues in a 300 plus page book. Yeah, each issue is like what, 50 pages. But trust me when I say that, each issue feels like your standard size comic, like a standard 32 pages, 23 pages comic. That's how well the pace. That's how good the pacing is in this comic. Now, yes, a lot of it is because of pages like this, where there's very little dialogue, and it's just like splash panel pages. But a lot of it is due to just how interesting the story is. But I only vaguely remember what the story is about. But I remember absolutely adoring it. And this was one my local library had that I bought myself because I had to have it in my PC. And to have everything that Sean Lewis has done that isn't Spawn. So, the few gets my highest recommendation. My a good, like, it's probably my 3rd favorite, honestly. So I can't do highest recommendation for 3 different series, you know. Next up, we have Snapshot by Andy Diggle, a pretty underrated writer. Andy Diggle is. Now, this is the same exact creative team that brought to you Green Arrow Year 1. It's drawn by Jock. I should have gone where the artist was. Yeah, screw it. Now, Snapshot is black and white, but I remember liking it enough. And this is a pretty interesting story. It's he finds a phone with like really incriminating evidence on it. He's a comic book store owner, a worker. He works at a comic book shop. You know, your average nerd, and he finds this like phone that someone leaves at his shop with like really disturbing pictures in it, and it just goes from there. And this is only 4 issues, and that's the only downside I have to give to this series. I feel like it was a bit rushed because there's only 4 issues, but it was still very interesting. Still highly recommend it. And that's all I'm gonna say about this series. Also, this is yet another one where I bought it myself. They hadn't had it on intro loans, but I bought it myself. They had to have it on my PC, and it was the last book I needed from Andy Diggle for Image Comics in general too. It wasn't like with Sean Lewis, or Sean Lewis has done some Spawn. I don't collect Spawn yet, so I include as so I still say I have Sean Lewis. I don't include Spawn. Not counting Spawn. This next series is another fantasy series, and that is Sleepless. And this is probably one of the only books that is for all ages. Now, it's teen for teen. There's a few like some bloody violence. If it were to be adapted into a television show, into a movie, which it could be, it's only like what, 10 issues, 11 issues. This is a full series, by the way, too. It's on 2 volumes, 11 issues total. It's written by Sarah Vaughn, which was honestly, this was Sleepless alone. I would say she's an underrated writer, even though I only read Sleepless from her and an anthology, and a story in an anthology she did. But it's a bunch of different authors, so do I count that? Probably not. As a Sarah Vaughn book I've read, probably not. It was only like it's a good amount of pages. It was like 20 pages. It's a full story, but it's just like 1 issue still. But Sleepless is about like it's very different. It was like kind of like a different way of having slaves, where it was like a master. The woman was the master. The boy was the slave. Not like a slave, but like he had to tend to her needs, kind of thing. But he was very like he wasn't reluctant to do it at all. And they're sleepless, which means they don't sleep at all. They stay awake all day, all night, so that they need something at 12 o'clock midnight, they can get right to them. Has a lot of like, you know, intrigue, a lot of like stuff happens in it, a lot of like conflicts that keep the story going for 11 issues, for its 11 issue run. Now, what was I trying to say? Oh, so I got sidetracked. So if this series were to be made into a movie, it'd be PG-13 for like mild violence. There is thematic elements in it, so I would say like to probably, you know, no kid is completely corrupted if they read this, but I would say it's probably like at least 10 and up. But it's still a kid. You're still in elementary school. Just the out of elementary school, sure, but you're still in elementary school. I say 10 and up, it's fine. Maybe like 8 to 10, honestly. But it's a very good series, and it's probably the only one I have here that is considered to be technically all ages, 10 and up at least. And they have video games that rated E10 and up that it's basically E. So I would still say 10 as a kid, obviously, but like still like kind of all ages kind of thing. If a book says it's 10 up, I would still count it as being for all ages kind of thing. But just that it has a couple of things in it that are like, maybe like a 5-year-old probably won't be able to read that in like, hell, they're not even be interested in it, and they may find it boring. But I hope you guys get what I'm saying. Next up, we have Generation Gone. If you liked Chronicle, this is a comic you should read right afterwards. Because this is very similar to that movie. Now, this is one of those books that I really feel that this should have been 3 issues long. Because the first 2 issues or so are pretty damn slow. And it's a 5-issue miniseries, so it shouldn't be that slow for that long of the book. And issue 1 is already 50 pages long, and they still pretty damn slow. Now, I probably need to read this again to get my full, to do a re-review of it, and I probably will do that pretty soon here. But I still think this is a pretty damn good series, and once it gets going, it gets going. In fact, when I first, again, stay with me now, this is a comic they had at my local library interloans that I bought myself for my PC. Because of how much I liked it. But once it gets going, it does not stop. In fact, when I first reviewed this comic, from my local library, I had actually changed it. If I didn't, I should have. I changed it from a not recommend to a recommend. Because of how explosive it gets and how interesting it gets towards the end of the series. Because it gets really interesting. If you've seen Chronicle, I'm sorry, but it's technically a spoiler, but it does follow a lot of the same beats as Chronicle. Now, Chronicle is like, let's say this was the book of Chronicle. The movie is still better. The movie, this is very rare for me to say, the movie is better than the book. So the movie is better than Generation Gone. But if you liked Chronicle and you want something similar to that, it's not the same story beats, it's not the same types of characters. Just a lot of similarities, more similarities than differences. But there's still some differences. Now I would say to read this. If you have not watched Chronicle, watch Chronicle. It's a damn underrated movie. I recently reviewed it, actually. I watched the extended cut, and that was like, it's one of those movies that I feel like would never get old for me. Some do. Some like I need to watch them like maybe 2 years tops, or two years at least. So I don't feel like I've watched too much of it, and I remember too much of it. I mean. Next up, we have Cullen Bunn's Cold Spots. Now, Cullen Bunn is an overhated writer, and Cold Spots, and just his work in general, is overhated. This has a 2.9 out of 5 on Goodreads, but something like Nubia Real 1 has like a 4.4. Those should be switched around, because this is really damn good. If you like horror, if you like Cullen Bunn, buy this book right away. It had to do with, like, monsters kind of thing, and it was kind of like a estranged father has to return because there's like stuff happening. It was like when he gets close to it, when the goats are getting close to his daughter, so he has to save his daughter, kind of thing. And I've always liked family horror movies, not family for families, but family horror movies, as in it takes as it's a family of people. One of my favorite horror movies of all time is The Exorcist. And a lot of what I like isn't how scary it is. It's the actual story. The Exorcist, a lot of people say, oh, you like that movie because it's so scary, and the cultural significance of the movie. Yeah, that has part to it. I'm not going to lie that it does have part to do with why I like the movie so much, because of the cultural significance, so it gives it more of an identity. But that movie is good because of like it focuses on the family, not just a horror, but the family too. So you get to really enjoy, you get to really love these characters. And then when shit starts happening, you really feel for them. You really like, I don't want any of these characters to die. Same here. Now it's not as good as The Exorcist, mind you. Obviously it's not, but it's pretty damn close. And this needs to be adapted into a film, not a TV series. Maybe if it fleshes out the characters a bit more, but it's only 5 issues, so if you're just adapting the story as what's in here, yeah, a movie would do the story justice. And probably an hour and a half will be at that too. Although I would not mind a 2.5 hour movie if that meant more recognition for that comic. Next up, we had two left. The second to last one is a series that. Actually, the last 2 are personal collection comics that they're not my personal collection. The library had them intro loans. Next one up is The Other Side by Jason Aaron. Now, this is a big surprise for those of you guys who have heard me say in the past that my least favorite genre, and I didn't, last night I did not know the answer to this question of my least favorite genre. My least favorite genre has to be war comics. Because I have read very few war comics I absolutely actually like. There's Warren Ellis. Like Garth Ennis wrote a really damn good Battlefield thing. I think it was a spin-off kind of thing. I don't know what it was. I forget what it was called, unfortunately. It had to do with like a female. It was World War II. It had to do with a female pilot. She was driving planes and. Those kind of things. And it's pretty damn good. And this is my other favorite war comic. There's only 2, so... And movies, too. Like, I recently watched The Covenant, which everyone seemed to love, and I was like, it was alright. But the other side is a really damn good comic. And of all the wars to focus on, I think Vietnam is the most interesting to me personally, just because of how the outcome and like what happened during the war and maybe even before. And this also has to do with it's the other side. So it's one part of the story one part of the story is an American, and the other part of the story is a Vietnamese man. Did I do that right? I went the right side. I'm pretty sure I did. And it is not preachy at all. It is very grounded in reality. It's none of it like too unrealistic. It does paint some characters in a bad light, but that's how everyone did so back in the day. So it's more like because of how it was back in the day, not Jason Aaron saying, "Oh, you should hate this character." No, in fact, you should understand the character, why he does what he does, and the actions he takes, because even he regrets the actions he takes. I think both sides do. And it's one of those stories that it's kind of depressing, and none of it is. I don't think there was any jokes in this series, and there were. It's very like minimal. But it's not Tom King sad, like Tom King's Sad Boy comics. No, it's because of what the story is that it's a more depressing story. But trust me when I say this is a very good story, and say with me again, it needs to be adapted into a film. All these need to be adapted into movies or TV shows, but this especially. If this was The Covenant, I would like The Covenant just as much as everyone else did, if not more. But pick this up. I mean, if you like war comics, you need to pick this up. And Jason Aaron's writing it too. And it's Jason Aaron back in the day too. And it's a pretty. In fact, it was Vertigo before he sold the rights to Image Comics. So hence why the hardcover has the Image Comics logo. So I count it as an Image Comic book. Now, that's a rule. Whatever is on the side here is what I count as. If it was Marvel, I count as Marvel. Regardless of what it was before, what it is now, what it is here, is what I count it as, what the publisher I count it as. Last and certainly not the least, and those of you who've seen my recent comic haul probably are wondering why this series hasn't been shown, but here we go. Bitter Root. Now, one thing I want to mention is that, yes, this is as big as a Marvel or DC omnibus. Hence why this is called Bitter Root, the hardcover omnibus, book 1. Now, this series is like with the other side, it does deal with what was the other one? Politics. But it deals with politics, but it does so in a Jordan Peele-esque way, where you get a damn interesting story that just so happens to have a political lesson inside of it. But it is not preachy one bit of the story. It is just very interesting. It is honestly, I think Jordan Peele needs to make the movie adaptation. Ryan Coogler he was the guy who brought you the Black Panther movies, and while I like those movies enough, I actually like the second more than the first, I still think that it should be Jordan Peele. At least Jordan Peele should at least be the writer on that series, on that movie. I'm glad it's being adapted to the movie, so more people can get introduced to this series, and it better at least follow the same beats as the comic does. Not every single story beat, but the ones that make a story as interesting as it is. My highest recommendation, probably not including no, how did I say that? But this is all in one, by the way, too. It's all 15 issues plus the summer special, and honestly, it is worth this $60. If you have to spend $60 on this, I would say it's worth it. It's $35 on Amazon, and I got this from Amazon. It's in a hardcover, so it's in perfectly fine condition. Get it right now, like right this second. Regardless of how you feel about politics and comics, get this comic right now. And that, as they say, is that. Now, what I'm going to do, because I've been doing this recently, I'm probably going to continue to do this, I'm going to give you an out of 10 score of all of these, and I will do a speed round where I tell you the artist, too. So this is written by Robert Kirkman, artwork by Charlie Adler with color? It can't be colors, it's black and white. Tony Moore does the cover. Cliff Rathburn does the gray tones. Okay. Hi, I didn't know that. Robert Kirkman is letterer. That's pretty interesting. Walking Dead, I would give for this entire series itself, I would give it 9.5 out of 10. Just because, it gets a little slow here and there, but 9.5 out of 10. We're the Divine, I also give a 9.5 out of 10. Probably 9 out of 10. Oh, and sorry, it's Kieran Gillen, artwork done by Jimmy McKelvey with colors by Matthew Wilson. 9 out of 10. We're getting Divine. On the Stump, written by Charlie Brown, written by Chuck Brown. Actually, they do call who calls him Chuck in this series? Is it Lucy? Sally? Sally calls Charlie Brown Chuck in the series, and Charlie Brown. So Chuck Brown, with artwork done by Prenzy. I would give this a 7 out of 10. It's still above a 6, so I still included it. The Few is written by Sean Lewis with the artwork done by Hayden Sherman. I'm going to assume that that's it. And it's like, yep. The Few, I would give a 8.5 out of 10. Snapshot is written by Andy Vigel with artwork by Jock, and I would give this a 7.5 out of 10. Just because it's a bit rough towards the end. Sleepless, Volumes 1 and 2. I'm just going to go by what Volume 1 says. Artwork is done by Leila Del Luca, written by Sarah Vaughn. Artwork done by Leila Del Luca. With the colors being done in editor. Colors being done by Alyssa Sala. With color flats done by Gabe Fisher. And production, production. I would give this series an 8.5 out of 10. Generation Gone, written by Ailes Cott with artwork done by Andre Lima Arujo, and I would give this a 7 out of 10. Maybe a 7.5 out of 10, just because of how colorist is Chris O'Halloran. So storytellers is Ailes Cott and Andre Lima Arujo, but the artwork is done by Andre, it's actually written by Ailes Cott. Coloring is done by Chris O'Halloran. And I would give this, a 7 out of 10. Probably a 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, you know what, let's say 7.5 out of 10 for Generation Gone. Cold Spots is written by Cullen Bunn with artwork done by Mark Torres. And I would give this an 8.5 out of 10. The other side is written by Jason Aaron with artwork by Cameron Stewart. Colors by David Craig. And I would give this a 9 out of 10. Easily. And last but not least, we have Bitter Root, written by David F. Walker and Chuck Brown. I did, that was the other Chuck Brown book. With artwork done by Sanford Green. And it's a bunch of colorists, so I am just going to show the credits page. And I would give this probably a 10 out of 10. This is probably an easy 10 out of 10. It's the right amount of issues for the storyline, for the first arc at least. I would like to see more of the series. Maybe in OGN form, so I can get it all at once, and I don't have to wait till all the issues come out to get a trade, because I'm a trade waiter. But either way, like I think this series was it told its story what it needed to tell in its 15 issues. Some loose ends seem to be tied up, but I can't think of any. I just remember that I felt that way, but I wouldn't be able to tell you specifics. And that, as I say, is that 36 minutes. Here's the 600. I wish I had a drink. Oh, I do. Here, product placement. Here's the 600. But so next time let's make this 40 minutes. So moving forward, when am I gonna upload the next top 10 publishers book for this publisher? I don't know. It's not going. Let's say monthly. How about that? Let's do monthly, because I still am doing my weekly Omnibus Fridays videos. In fact, I just got that one today. I'm uploading this on Saturday because Sunday's video. So the whole reason why I decided to do this so like soon, because I thought I'd have a few weeks to prepare, but I didn't. Is because they don't count premieres as or scheduled videos. They don't count scheduled videos as a video. So, you know. And also, I don't know if they count privated videos as real videos. What I'll do is I'll unprivate those. I'll unlist them too. Because there's one that I can just unlist. Doesn't really matter. I just hope it counts. It stays as unlisted. And what I'll do is I'll check after. But so that's that. Next week you'll get my not complete. Well, actually on October 1st you get my complete September haul, which half the books you've already seen in this video. I got for September. I was only 4, but you know, good 4. It was quantity. It was definitely quality over quantity. And on sometime next week, I don't know when I'm going yet. You'll get my comic reviews of the library books I've read, and then more library books, the ones I'll be picking up this week. And then the comic haul will not be until for a few weeks. The next comic haul will be a few weeks from now. But then next Friday you'll get the next Omnibus Friday video, which I might as well just upload now. But that, as I say, is that, you know what, I'll make it 38 minutes. I'm not going to keep you guys hot. I mean, I'm not going to have dead air for 2 minutes because, you know, just to get to 40 minutes. No. And I need to get my books too. That's it.